her for the show. So when I'm doing the streams without Susie, I just look into things for like maybe, I don't know, half an hour, and then I jump on the stream and I talk to you guys. But when Susie is here, you know that there's a lot of work and research that has gone into every freaking story that we're going to be covering, okay? So there's a lot of work. I mean, beyond the work that she does, the legal work, the accounting work, the management work, the team structure work that she does that keeps Atheist Republic together, even when she comes on the stream, like that aside, these are much higher value streams with Susanna because there's a lot of research behind every news. So I want everybody to appreciate how amazing it is that we have Susanna at least once a week. So show her that appreciation because she really deserves it. So tell her. Also, Brother Ben, you're not first. Don't you see all the other comments right above you? Wait, Susie, you're... Susie.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Fantastic. Also, guys, have you liked the stream? Please make sure you like the stream. And also, Susie, what kind of stories we're covering today?
Oh my gosh. See, normally to make my life easier, I usually pick a few stories that are like some are a little bit more meaty and then some that are a little bit less so that it's easier to prepare for. And then when I sat down to do my study and I realized I was like, oh no, you picked for whoppers, girl. I was like, okay, time to get to studying. So we're going to cover a bunch of different stuff. One is that this is an update on a story that we talked about before, which is how USAID in the United States is under a lot of scrutiny because of how it's been spending its money on. And we talked about how it was exposed that USAID has sent hundreds of millions of taxpayer, funds to organizations that ended up either had links to terrorism or this might have ended up in the hands of terrorists. And so, everything going on in the federal government, there were all these audits and all sorts of stuff that happened to USAID. And then USAID released their list of who got to keep their grants or who got new grants, right? And it's been exposed that a bunch of those new grants are still going to some of the worst organizations. So we're like, oh, so there was this whole thing where we like testified before Congress about how hundreds of millions of dollars are going to like terrorist tied charities. And that was good because this has been in the progress for like years. And no, it's still happening. And in fact, they renewed it. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this important case that's kind of unfolding in the UK, where Hamas itself is demanding like free speech rights in the UK. And they're basically trying to get deprescribed by the UK government in a lawsuit, which is just like such a clown world moment. But yes, this is a real thing that's happening. The other thing that we're going to talk about this week, which is really important, is this giant massacre of Christians that happened in several places across Nigeria over kind of the Holy Week and on Palm Sunday time of year. But the part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this in more depth is because we've been following kind of the Fulani jihadists' violence against Christians in Nigeria, but I actually wanted to go look into it more deeply and understand it more deeply. So because we talked about it and we're like, well, I don't really understand all the factors here. Like what's going on? So I took this as a reason to go look at it much more deeply. And that's what I want to talk about today. Was really going on behind this Fulani like Islamization. And the last thing we're going to talk about today is a very good news, and it's juicy news. And it is that Jordan, the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, has banned the Muslim Brotherhood and seized their assets. And
icing in the cake.
We are going to talk about it because there a little terror plot was exposed where some of them were trying to like build some rockets and stuff, and it was probably being, supplied by Iran, or there's some sketchy things going on. And look, say what you want, but the monarchy don't play with that no more.
I mean, they used to, and they regretted it.
Yeah, they learned their lesson the hard way, as we would say.
Yes.
And so they don't play, and they're very serious. And we're gonna talk about it because
I mean, Jordan is technically Palestine.
I was looking into the details, and I was like, oh my god.
That's pretty cool.
But it's very dramatic because, well, it's dramatic for more reasons, but I'll explain when we get into the full story.
Yeah. By the way, I was trying to praise you and your hard work, and a lot of people were thanking you. However, Zaid had to make this personal for some reason. I said also Susie is much cuter than you, Armin, and also Jean seems to also agree. So I don't know why you guys had to get personal with this. I was just trying to.
Well, I mean, I'm a little biased because Zaid is like a little brother to me, so
Okay.
That's why.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. John agrees as well. There we go. Fantastic.
You're like, this is
all right. Yeah, exactly. Darth is correct. Jordan is Palestine. What do you guys like? You already have a Palestine. You don't need to make it Palestine.
What, in the sense that you're like, well, there's the West Bank. What is the East Bank? Like that kind of thing?
No, because
like the West Bank is west of what?
Yeah. No, but because it's just filled with Palestinians. It's just like Jordan is, a Palestinians country. Like, isn't it half Palestinian now? Yeah, anyways.
Well, now you're getting into some delicate demographic questions because that's sensitive, but
yeah. I mean, it's sensitive for the monarchy because the Palestinians there would probably chop their heads off if they had the chance. But anyway, 60%. Holy crap. Yeah, okay, there you go. We already have Palestine. All right. So, should we get started then?
Yes, we shall. Okay. Before we get started, I do want to say thank you to everyone that supports the show by becoming a member or donating via PayPal. Link is in the description because literally, without the people that are our members, we would not be able to keep going. So, thank you very much.
That's actually a good reminder that between the stories, we will be reading the super chats, and the super chats and memberships are the way to keep this channel growing. So thank you to people who are members, and also thank you to people who give super chats. So I'm going to put a reminder here that we'll read super chats between news stories. So yeah, that would be nice. Thank you. All right. Clap for the first news.
We don't like this, but we can clap.
First news.
Is the State Department still funding terror? Hamas tied to USAID. And I mean, look. The State Department could be probably accused of funding terror in many ways besides USAID. Let's be honest. But that's besides the point. We're talking about USAID today. In a startling report that has exposed the U.S. government through its foreign aid agency, USAID, is still funneling billions of taxpayer funds to organizations allegedly tied to Hamas and other extremist groups, raising alarm over oversight and national security. USAID, or the United States Agency for International Development, is tasked with distributing foreign aid and promoting humanitarian assistance abroad. However, a recent list released by the State Department shows that over $2.5 billion in active USAID grants are going to groups previously linked to Hamas's charitable network, a network many analysts say helps the terror group maintain control of Gaza by operating under the guise of humanitarian work. For example, the Norwegian Refugee Council, accused of cooperating directly with Hamas ministries, is set to receive $270 million, while the French group whose like acronym is, I guess you would say, like ACTED, or ACTED, which allegedly partners with Hamas-linked organizations, has been granted $403 million. Even the US-based and international charities like Save the Children, World Vision, and ANIRA, which is like the, Near East Refugee Agency, have received millions in funding despite reported associations with groups promoting anti-Semitic or pro-terror messages. The revelation follows years of concern from watchdogs and policymakers about how foreign aid can be diverted to bolster regimes or groups hostile to American interests. Quote, a sprawling bureaucracy creating a system more beholden to radical political ideology than to advancing America's core interests, warned Secretary of State Marco Rubio. With over 5,000 awards were cut. So in this whole auditing process of DOJ and whatever, over 5,000 US aid grants were cut and shut down, but roughly 900 remain active. And of these 900 that remain active, there are all these ones that still have links to like terrorism in them. And this prompts serious questions about whether the US is still unintentionally bankrolling terror in the name of aid. So Armin, do you have any initial questions?
How? Yes, how? How do they let this happen? Like what? Like if these people figured it out, how come the U.S. government can't? Like, why is it that the U.S. government, if you, when it comes to a bakery not deducting something properly under tax filing, they come and they figure it out, and they come and like they're all up on your like business and try, and they figure all of these little things out when it comes to small businesses and individuals' money issues, but they themselves, when they're handing out money, even after they made this huge show regarding how serious of this issue is and the need to crack down, they can't figure out that, like, oopsies, we sponsor terror by mistake. Like, how does this happen? I don't understand.
It definitely is kind of crazy to me because, you know, they released the list of surviving beneficiaries, and all of these bad groups have been included in the surviving beneficiaries. Now, granted, when we covered this before, when did I do that? We covered this before when this was kind of first really getting media attention, and when there were congressional hearing was happening. So a lot of those were cut. A lot of those are not on the current list of grantees, but many still remain. So one thing that I want to explain about, for people who didn't see our first one, but I encourage you to go watch it. It was probably called like USAID is funding terrorism or something. Basically, I want to explain the flow of funds because that's like an important piece to understand, because a lot of how this system gets abused is through the sub-grantee system. And if you're not familiar with how the government runs its federal grants programs, you might not know about this. So basically, there's like, okay, US taxpayer money, and then the congressional appropriations, they decide, okay, some of this money is going to go to USAID. Okay, USAID has this money. And then the USAID gives grants to NGOs or charities, non-governmental organizations. And so this would be, and they do this through grants and contracts, right? And right now we have some of these grants and contracts are surviving. So these surviving grants and contracts go to organizations like World Vision, Save the Children, ACTED, or ANIRA, whatever. And so they get a contract or award for this money. And then, so it's not like that initial primary grantee is just handing that money over to Hamas. Like, that's not how this works. What happens is they end up working with sub-grantees. So the primary grantee basically subcontracts another group to help them fulfill the mandate of their contract or their award. right? And so
Yep.
they get a portion of the funds, right? So they have subgrantees, they have local partners, and these subgrantees and local partners are usually where the really bad associations start to come in. And in the first time we covered this, we explained this in more detail because part of the problem is that the vetting process for these subgrantees previously has been pretty poor, where they kind of the oversight on who is getting these subgrants and contracts is kind of, what's the way I would describe it? It's very there's a definite conflict of interest. Like the way it happens, you kind of like opt in to like profiling yourself in a way. There's not this level of like a third party doing the vetting that really would help this be a lot more secure. It's almost like you're kind of telling them yourselves that you're trustworthy when really there should be, like an external review. And that's been a huge stumbling block in this vein. So then that's how really bad groups end up getting these funds. And a lot of these subgrantees and local partners are the ones that have the associations with Hamas, for example. So like the, how do I pronounce this? Bayadere Association would be another one. And then so these subgrantees and local partners, they're the ones that have the connections to like the local governments and ministries that are controlled by terrorist organizations and the Hamas Ministry of Social Development, for example. And it's really bad because, like, for example, the Hamas Ministry of Social Development will be like posting on their social media thanking these partners for training them.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
okay,
so then if you bring it
yeah.
one level down, that means that this is funding like infrastructure programming and aid activities, but it's allowing the legitimization of terror controlled governance and the employment of terror affiliated staff. And then also like some of this has gone into, when you follow the trickle, it goes into like kindergartens that are doing propaganda and the public praise of these NGOs by the terrorists. And this is all a huge problem. And so when the president of the Middle East Forum that has done a lot of the work to expose through open source investigation the problems with these groups, he was saying like we need to completely redo how we do the vetting, and we also actually need to be doing prosecutions against people for their failure to do this safely and allowing it to get into the hands of some of these people.
Amir's asking, is USAID taxpayer money? Yeah. American taxpayers are funding Hamas, apparently. I mean, is that an exaggeration? No.
It's not like it's not always that the money's like being literally handed to them. It's that it's like maybe funding a program that they benefit from, I think would be a more accurate way to put it.
The money is being handed to them with some steps in between.
Well, it's not, my understanding is it's not like liquid cash is being handed to them. It's just there is a programming that benefits them or serves their interests.
Yeah, I mean, money is fungible, so if it benefits your interest, it's basically equivalent to money being handed to you because money is fungible. So if you're benefiting there, it's basically financial support. Anyway, so it's financial support indirectly. But again, I know this is, the details of this much better than I do. But why is it not as simple as, hey, if we find out that you guys, like, we will work with people who have years of record of not funding terrorists. And if they support terrorists, we will basically cut you out and we will never support you again. Like, how is that? And as Jean pointed out, like, can't you, like, aren't people, like, don't we have like forensic accountants? Is that what they're called? That are basically their expertise into just basically figuring these things out. I mean, with all this money that the US government has, like, wouldn't it take hiring a bunch of experts to just make sure that this money is being spent the right way? Like, I don't know. I know I'm simplifying it, but it just seems to be there's a fix for this. It seems to me, from somebody that hasn't been looked at the details as much as you. It's just bizarre that they just didn't hire a couple of people that could just look into this to make sure that this doesn't happen. I don't know.
I don't understand like your full question. Is there a question?
The question is, given that we had this much attention on this, this should have been an easy fix in my opinion. But again, I understand that I haven't looked at the details as much as you have. So I'm just saying, shouldn't have this been as easy of a fix of, we will hire some experts to make sure that this doesn't happen, and that would have solved this problem? Is it, or is it not as simple as that?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much an element of plausible deniability is at play, and like how legitimate that is, because again, the people that are doing the worst stuff is typically the subgrantees. But the primary grantee, maybe who are the people getting the money, but they've just had this history of partnering with really bad people and funneling money to really bad, unsavory characters. To what extent could they plead plausible deniability? I'm not sure, because again, it's this flow step by step. And I mean, there's some situations where that's definitely not the case, because like World Vision has this history of working, and this pertains to Sudan. They have this history of working with the Islamic American Relief Agency, or no, what was the bad one? It was the Islamic Islamic Relief Agency, or ISRA for short. The problem is that ISRA is a listed terrorist organization because of links to Osama bin Laden. And
wow.
The problem is that like World Vision had a situation where they had partnered with them like after this. So yeah, for example, notwithstanding, USAID issued the grant to ISRA through World Vision, only pausing the process when World Vision finally felt impelled to talk with USAID about its terror partners' inclusion in the US terror list, doing so after a whistleblower came forward. So in situations like that, you're like, at what point have you shown that you can't follow through well and you don't get this money anymore? Part of me wonders about if certain of these groups continued to, this isn't the right way to put it, but organizations like World Vision, Catholic Relief Agency, Save the Children, I almost think of them, and again, this isn't the right phrasing, but as almost like too big to fail. So in the sense that these relief agencies are so massive and they're so large that they are the ones with the infrastructure and capacity to be doing this work. And so maybe they keep receiving funds to do certain things because they might be one of the few organizations that have the capacity to undertake work at this scale. Do you know what I mean? And this is me speculating, but maybe they would like to give the money to someone else, but there is not a potential partner that they feel could do it at scale. That's complete speculation on my part. Because these are huge organizations.
Yeah. I know it's probably because of my lack of understanding, but in my mind, this looks like just one person's full-time job to make sure that this doesn't happen. And again,
But
I know this is probably...
what if someone is arguing, okay, so this organization did some really sketchy stuff with Hamas at a certain point that was maybe 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, because some of these instances are 10 plus years ago. And they say, okay, so they did a whoopsie. They did a whoopsie. They did a whoopsie over in Gaza. Okay. But now they have a contract to go work in Ethiopia. Should we go deny them that? Because in the article that we're covering, you can go look at the list of awards and where they're contracted to do work. And in some of these instances, it is in a completely different locale. It's in a completely different geography. So, for example, the Catholic Relief Services, they had some whoopsies. They had some whoopsies, but they're contracted to go do a 5-year grant in Haiti. Is that?
I mean, it's
a red line.
I mean, it's the same. It's the same checks and balances that failed to. It's the same organization, so I'm assuming it's the same checks and balances that failed not to support terrorists over there. So I guess again, this is so if that's how their filtering process works over there, I'm assuming then I guess no, we shouldn't. It doesn't matter where you work, then we shouldn't work with you because you have demonstrated that you are incapable of not doing an oopsie of funding terrorists. That doesn't seem to be a red line to you, so maybe not. We shouldn't be working for you.
They did a little whoopsie. They did a little whoopsie. No, but I mean, this is. I mean, I'm again. This is me speculating, but I would imagine that this played a role in this decision. Of John is saying like Haiti is not Gaza, which is not Ethiopia, which is not Sudan. So it's like, okay, maybe there was some bad stuff that happened in your partners in a specific location, but we're contracting you to go work on a different side of the planet. Like,
but it's the same people, it's the same organization with the lack of checks and balances in place. So it's somewhere else, but it's the same organization. So I don't know. Again, I don't know. The thing is that the answer to this question would be properly answered with having the right experts. I'm probably being naive here, but this is basically 2 or 3 hires from being solved. That's what I think. Or maybe just don't understand the complexity.
No, but you're asking like, how did this happen? And I'm speculating that this change in locale and also the size and scale of these organizations may have played a role in why they were allowed to get a grant again.
Right.
To answer that question,
well,
I would imagine.
I think they should hire you. I think, given your research skills, if they hire Susanna, I think all of this would be solved.
No, I mean, to be fair, they should hire Sam Westrup at the Middle East Forum, because it's his years of research that has revealed all this stuff.
Wasn't Doge supposed to solve all these things?
And that's why 5,000 grants were cut. That's why 5,000 grants were cut.
Yeah, but now the ones that are approved are having the same problem.
Well, I mean, that's the question. Is this the same problem? Is this the same problem?
I mean,
they're doing work in Haiti or Ethiopia now. Is it the same problem?
It's like the same problem as before. I mean, they were funding terrorists before. They're funding terrorists now.
No, we don't know that they're funding terrorists now because these are the primary grantees, and oftentimes the local partners and sub-grantees that are doing the dirty work.
Yeah, so they're indirectly supporting terrorists. I mean, again, we went over this, but I get it. They're supporting the people who are support. Okay, it's just basically supporting terrorism with some steps in between, with extra steps. That's it.
But I mean, just to play devil's advocate here, it's not that simple. Can you say that World Vision, who has the bad history in Sudan, is with the new grant that they have to do work in Ethiopia? Can you say that is funding terrorists? Like, we don't know that right now because this happens through local partners and sub-grantees.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that specific example, but obviously we have examples here that they're still funding Hamas that is tied to USAID. Like I'm referring to that. I'm referring to what you described at the beginning of the show, that Hamas is still, that terror groups are being funded, and Hamas is tied to USAID.
Maybe I should have been more clear. I was trying to explain that groups that have been part of this chain that ended up with support for Hamas are still receiving funds.
Yeah. I mean, do you agree with me that they shouldn't be?
Well, I think it depends a lot on the oversight in the locale and the local partners. And so I fully agree that there needs to be much more oversight of these sub-grantees, because that was a huge part of the problem before.
So once it gets to this organization, then you have lost control over that fund. Okay?
That's not true.
So
they're answerable.
They're answerable. That means there's consequence. That could be consequences if they don't fund it, use it in a certain way. But then, other than that, it is in their control to do what they want with it. So that's why you have to be very, very strict about letting that money go. Like, you need to be signaling. Like, it's not just about that organization. So, for example, let's say an institution has a history of not doing the proper work, and they have did an oopsie and funded terrorism, right? But now they got their shit together, and we're like, oh, can we fund them now? I'm gonna be like, no, because it's not just about them. It's about other institutions realizing that the consequences for doing such an oopsie is forever. So even if I find this institution now and they're not going to support terrorism anymore, I'm still not going to fund them, because other institutions need to see that the consequences of doing such a mistake is going to be huge. It's going to be forever.
No, I get that. But I don't know. It's not that simple. Like I have worked on most of my career has involved me either working on or under federal grants. And it's not as simple as, oh, they just get that money and they can do whatever they want with it. It's really not that simple. It depends on the construction of the grant. It depends if it's a cooperative agreement. Oftentimes these disbursements happen over time. These disbursements happen only after you've already expended some funds and you're basically getting reimbursed. So it's not as simple as, oh, the government just doesn't have control over it once it's been given to a primary grantee.
More than I do.
Yeah, there is a high degree of I mean, there's a lot of legal action that can be taken against you. It's no joke. Like, as someone whose job has been literally funded by federal grants to do research, I don't know. I know how much the degree of reporting responsibility, I mean, granted, this was in a medical context, was so high.
Yeah, so that's why I keep saying everything I'm saying. I don't understand the complexity of it, so I'm just wondering, right?
Yeah. No, and I'm just trying to give more detail.
Okay.
But this is obviously like a huge problem. I'm not trying to downplay it, but I think it is useful to ask the question of, like, steel manning to a certain extent, with saying like, okay, well, if it's in a completely different location, is that as bad of a violation as it might seem at first glance? You know, if a group did bad, like allowed some bad things to happen in Gaza that aren't okay, that people should be held accountable for, but now they're going to work in Haiti, is that the same thing? I think it's worth asking that question.
Makes sense. Yeah, so let's go over some of the comments here.
Oh, so this has more, these comments are more to do with some of the like Taliban funds, which was not really the subject of this, like these grantees. So that's why I didn't want to play that video.
Okay. But all right. So what about this one?
Wait, can you scroll up? Okay, so this is saying, as you realize, 2.1 billion USA dollars sent to Gaza. And, okay, but this is not. Where are they getting this claim from?
What is the claim?
2.1 billion USA dollars sent to Gaza and West Bank wound up directly in the bank accounts of billionaire Hamas and Palestinian Authority terrorists to call for death for America. Please remember, I don't know. I don't know where they're getting this claim. My understanding about because this tweet is from February. My understanding about what we already knew about the history of the misuse of USAID and terror-aligned partners for subgrantees is that it was not in the billions. My understanding was like hundreds of millions. They were initially given as a grant, and then how much, and then it gets filtered down. And then so how much actually ends up in the programming that ends up benefiting Hamas or benefiting their control of Gaza, I don't think is literally millions or literally billions. Certainly not billions. That's not my understanding.
Yeah, it's more complicated than, hey, taxpayer money, USAID, leader of Hamas, give me your bank account number, and now it's in the bank account of the Hamas leader. I think like it doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah, and either way, my understanding for USAID, because she's specifically saying USAID is not billions; it's hundreds of millions, and it's not even exclusively sent to Gaza. A lot of it was stuff going on in Sudan.
So it's more like, can I paint a picture? So taxpayer money, USAID to another organization that looks how they could help Palestinians, and that organization gives money to a local group in Gaza that is doing, I don't know, specific work for building infrastructure, but there are people within that institution that also are Hamas sympathizers and they have connection with Hamas, and they use that organization's like maybe charitable work to also advertise Hamas's work in Gaza, and Hamas now gets a little bit more better standing in Gaza, and then because of the control that Hamas, the extra control that Hamas has over who gets those benefits or doesn't, their control grows, and that control indirectly brings in more revenue for Hamas because or other organizations or people in, I don't know, Qatar or Iran or somewhere else are like funding Hamas more than maybe like another group like Islamic Jihad. Because of that credibility brought Hamas more authority, and that money goes more closely to the leaders of Hamas. So this is how indirectly that eventually might even enrich the leaders of Hamas. This is the more indirect version that might happen. Does that?
Yeah, there's a small correction that I would make. It's like, but you're basically right. By the time you trickle down to these like subgrantees and these local partners, like they might be having photo ops with Hamas members, and post a photo on social media. Their staff might promote a lot of very vitriolic anti-Semitic messaging or have pro-terror messaging, post propaganda videos. So they're clearly in support. The staff might be posting photos with Hamas members. The Hamas might advertise that this organization has a job opening, or Hamas media itself might be promoting the good activities of this organization. So it's like these little snapshots and these little breadcrumbs through like media spheres show that there are links and there's relationships there. And like that calls into question what is being supported. I think that helps make things have a lot more sense.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
But how Hamas gets their billions, for example, like it's not literally USAID. Just to correct this person.
It helps.
Billions?
It helps Hamas. It could indirectly help Hamas raise more money. But I'm pretty like if we eventually look at the main like. if you look at Hamas leaders' bank account being full of money and where most of it came from, I would bet most of it came from Iran and Qatar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and people would say that, well, for these organizations to be able to do work, they have to be doing it within the permission of Hamas, basically.
Right.
Some people might make that argument. Well, it's like, well, they have to partner with Hamas. Like, that's who's in charge of them. That's in charge of that region.
Can I address this comment because it's very interesting? Mr. King saying this community is a cult itself. Anything Armin or Susanna people would be quick to say, yeah, you're right. Not allowed to question. LOL. Okay, first of all, Mr. King, you're obviously not very smart. You must not be here very long. And also, even if you were here for the past 10 minutes, Susie was questioning everything I was saying. Like, I couldn't get a word in before Susie keeps saying, like, well, not exactly. We are wrong about that. Like, even the conversations between us two, she's constantly telling me that I'm wrong about things. So I don't know, where have you been? Because you probably, I don't know what show you're watching, but you're not paying attention. You don't seem to be very smart. Also, for not just this show, go watch previous show. And in the previous show, I said so many things that people said in the chat that, like, Armin, you're wrong about this. And then I checked it and I was like, oh, okay, guys, thank you for correcting me in the chat. So you're obviously either not very smart or actually a troll. I don't know which one.
Yeah.
But
well, of these. I don't want to make it seem like I'm just trying to tell you that you're wrong. It's that this arrangement is complicated, and I want people to understand it more fully, so they don't make an assertion like that poster that USAID is receiving that Hamas is receiving billions from USAID, because that's not true. It's a much more complex chain and arrangement than that. And so that's why I want to interject. Because this is hard to make sense of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know what this comment is trying to get at. Do you want to read it, or should we just move on?
Well, this person is like making just an allusion to how, the leaders of Hamas live these very lavish, luxurious lifestyles, but people in Gaza are suffering.
Okay, but I don't. So saying thankfully the majority went to homes, cars, hookers, and yachts. They could have had a proper military if their leaders weren't so greedy. I mean, I'm glad that they don't have a proper military. Are you talking about Gaza? That would be worse. What the hell? Okay, so, okay.
This is
guy is saying it was.
This is a kind of a different thing because this is more regarding the Taliban, and what I've researched so far doesn't really pertain to the Taliban. But basically, they're like, oh, they got sent all this money on accident. Someone's like, can they give me an accident? I feel that.
I feel that too. Yeah. All right. Okay. So we got Ginga, just about 5 memberships for the people in the chat. I appreciate that. Guys, memberships and super chats are the reason why we can continue what we're doing. So we appreciate anybody who's a member, anybody who buys super chat, or anybody who gives people super chat. So Ginga has been buying a lot of memberships recently for people in the chat. So I really appreciate that. Oh, by the way, if you're a member, go watch our member-only shows that we do, because I'm doing almost every week. I'm doing one member-only show every week. So if you got gifted a membership, go watch those, because they were good, especially the last one I did. I'm very happy with them.
I agree.
We had some high-level conversations there. Okay, so can we clap for the next news?
This is outrageous.
Oh, good.
I ain't gonna lie, this one is outrageous. Okay, let's get into
it. All right. Next news.
Hamas demands the UK remove a terrorist label and calls it free speech. Outrageous, my friends, I tell you. Okay, in an audacious legal move, Hamas has petitioned the UK government to lift its designation as a terrorist organization, claiming it's merely exercising freedom of speech on behalf of Palestinian resistance. The Islamist group responsible for the October 7th massacre of 1,200 Israelis and the abduction of hundreds more filed a 106-page request through the controversial London law firm Riverway Law, arguing that the ban violates their rights under the European Convention on Human Rights. Hamas official Musa Abu Marzouk insisted, so he's kind of the one initiating this. Quote, Hamas does not and has never opposed a threat to Britain, and accused the UK of supporting Zionism, apartheid, occupation, and ethnic cleansing. The UK banned Hamas's military wing in 2001 and its political wing in 2021, declaring it a complex but single terrorist organization. Critics slammed the move. Former Home Secretary Priti Patel called Hamas an evil Iranian-backed terrorist organization that kidnaps, tortures, and murders people, including British nationals. As the UK Home Secretary Yvette Cooper weighs the decision, Hamas's attempt to rebrand its genocidal ideology as political activism highlights the growing challenge of Islamist lawfare in Western democracies. So there is a lot to get into here. And I think I just need to start out with saying, like, this just breaks my brain. The irony of being like, we're demanding rights under the European Commission Human Rights, and this is so unfair and it's a violation. Well, like, lately I feel like every single day I can find a new video of Hamas militiamen shooting random Gazans dead in the street, you know, and they're gonna complain to the UK about freedom of speech. But over the past couple months, like, how many videos have we seen of them, like, dragging a random man who was at an anti-Hamas protests, like, through the street and shooting him dead? Like, it's just so, it's so rich. Like, I can never get over the bald face cry bullying of Islamists. Their ability to perpetuate straight up the most intolerant, barbaric jihad against others and then turn around and play the victim never ceases to amaze me. It never ceases to amaze me. Doesn't matter what level of hatred and barbarity they perpetuate, still turn around, groups all across the world then turn around and play the victim. It's insanity. Okay. So, oh my gosh. There are three main arguments. There are three main arguments in their petition. And first, they claim that the prescription of Hamas as a terrorist organization violates Britain's obligations under international law. How? How does it do this, you might ask? How does it do this? They say that it is violating Britain's obligations under international law, in particular, the duty to prevent genocide and crimes against humanity. So basically, they are characterizing Israel's actions as an ongoing genocide, and they are characterizing Hamas as the only military force resisting. And therefore, by banning Hamas, UK is complicit in suppressing the resistance and then therefore perpetuating a genocide.
What?
So that's argument number one. Should I repeat myself? So they're basically saying
this. Did they know October 7th happened? So they're saying that they're actually arguing. Like, are these Hamas members aware that other Hamas members did October 7th? Like, are they aware?
No. I'll get into it, but basically, the legal complaint does acknowledge that Hamas currently fits the definition of terrorism. The legal complaint acknowledges that. The legal complaint acknowledges that. Big admission. I don't know, guys. That seems like a pretty big admission. but they're trying to reframe it. And this is what's so insidious, and I'll get into this. They're trying to completely reframe it. Right? So basically, this is argument number one. Is that
so wait, they're saying we did terrorism and we are terrorists, but don't call us terrorists?
No. Well, no. I'll get into it, but it's very terrorist rights. You know, who's going to speak up for the terrorist rights?
Right. I mean, to be fair, terrorists
first they came for the terrorists.
This is. I mean, terrorists do have rights, but not being called terrorists is not one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So no, it actually gets really, really disgusting because they basically try to. I'll get into it, but basically they try to be like, how are we any different than Ukraine? And when I was studying this last night, I lost my shit and I was just texting Armin about how bleak I felt because I was losing my mind reading this stuff. But okay, so let us emphasize the summary of point. Hate the terror, not the terror.
Oh God. What the hell?
Oh God. Okay. So let's summarize point number one. They're like, look, you know, Israel's committing a genocide. There are, you know, rulings about Israel's illegality of the occupation, and therefore we have a right to armed resistance under foreign occupation, and we are the only people doing this, and so we're basically engaged in a lawful struggle against colonial oppression. And so if you are against us, if you're prescribing us, you are basically complicit in and part of the perpetuation of the colonial violence against us. And that's kind of point number one. And this is where things, they basically start drawing, in this first point, they start drawing analogies to, they compare themselves basically to the African National Congress and the IRA. So, by the way, like, I'm no fan of the IRA. I was like, is that supposed to be in your favor? Like, no, I kind of fucking hate them. Like,
okay.
Look. Like, I have Irish people in my family. I'm not talking about like Irish American. I'm talking like Irish from the homeland, like first gen Irish people in my family. And they don't remember that part of their history fondly. Like, I don't know if they're like, oh, we're just like the IRA. I'm like, excuse me? Anyway. Look. Like.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just saying they kind of seem like fucking losers to me. But that's besides the point. Okay, yeah. So here's the second argument they make. Second, Hamas contends that the ban infringes on fundamental rights protected by the European Convention on Human Rights, or ECHR. In particular, they cite the rights to freedom of expression and assembly. Okay, so what are they even talking about here? They're talking about how people have been prosecuted for showing support for Hamas. So they're basically, in the second point, they're basically saying that people should be able to openly and publicly be able to be like supporting Hamas and not have that be a violation of the law, because right now it is. And we've talked about some of these cases. Like, for example, there were the girls in a pro-Palestine protest that were walking around with pictures of the paratroopers, the parachuting jihadists on their, like, taped onto their jackets. And there was one girl who was prosecuted for that. Ironically, she herself was a refugee who had escaped Gaza because of Hamas The entire point of her refugee claim was that she was being persecuted by Hamas. And then she's in this pro-Palestine protest, like with Hamas, parachuters taped on her. And so that's one example, right? Okay, so let's walk through the second point. Because the UK law makes it a criminal offense to belong to Hamas, to show or express support for it, to wear clothing or displaying articles indicating support, they're saying that this is restricting open debate on Palestinian issues. And this chills the right to protest, and this is chilling free speech. And to this point, the lawyers are even saying, we are representing Hamas pro bono. That's a crazy sentence. That's a crazy sentence. They're like, we're representing Hamas for free, and it is my honor to do so. Like, fuck. Because they're saying, well, we have to represent them for free because it would be illegal to receive payment from them for our services under these laws, and that this is stifling honest debate. And
so they're like, we can't, you guys are making us not get paid because we can support Hamas right now, but because you labeled them as a terrorist group, if we get paid for it, this would be illegal. You're messing with our way of life, and we are providing services for society by supporting Hamas and not getting paid for our services. Okay.
And Kenya is saying they're trying to pretend Hamas is just some political movement. Here's the thing. For 20 years, part of Hamas was not prescribed. In 2001, the armed branch, the Qassam Brigade of Hamas, was prescribed as a terrorist organization, but the political wing wasn't. The political wing of Hamas was not prescribed as a terrorist organization until 2021. And when they prescribed it in 2021, they said, we're doing this because, look, this is a complex organization, but ultimately it's all part of the same thing. So for 20 years, part of Hamas was just treated as some political movement. And they changed that. So then the third point that they're making is that this prescription. And one thing that I want to point out, guys, this is really, really important, is that if theoretically this prescription was to be removed, that would allow people to fundraise and send money to Hamas directly from the UK.
Wow. What are the chances of this one? What are the chances?
I'll get into that in a second. But that's kind of one thing that's like not really mentioned in the complaint. But one of the consequences, if this was to be removed, is that you could just send money to Hamas directly from the UK. So it's like, oh, I wonder what some incentives are. So they are asserting in their third point that this prescription, this designation, is disproportionate and unjustified. And they are saying this because they say we pose no direct threat to the UK's national security. We pose no direct threat. Our activities are confined to Israel and Palestine. And therefore, this is excessive because it is penalizing the Palestinian people's chosen political representation. We won democratic elections in 2006. Look, that was 20 years ago. Let's not talk about the fact that was 20 years ago, hasn't happened since, but they were chosen at the time. And therefore, this prescription is undermining their self-determination. It's undermining their democratic will. And then this is where the, plaintiff is saying, Marzuki saying, oh, this is just a century of unwavering support for Zionism. And, yeah. He's inviting the Home Secretary to depart from the British state's morally and legally indefensible policy of siding with the Zionist oppressor. So basically, they in total, you could frame it as not only a legal case, but they're trying to kind of make a moral and historical appeal through this legal case. So there's a lot more that I could get into and more that I will get into, but I think now would be like a good moment to pause and watch some of the videos that has been put out by these lawyers. And I also want to talk about who these lawyers are and why they sketchy. We got some rotten apples here.
Okay, Susie, I'm panicking about the future a little bit. Can you see if this is justified, this fear or not? Okay, because we're seeing right now with the UK at I don't know 6% Muslim, right? And even if this fails, I'm thinking that if we keep going in this direction and eventually UK turns from 6% to 10% Muslim, stuff like this, a lot of Muslims in the UK would become a lot more political, and stuff like this would actually work and they will succeed. And given the large populations of Muslims in the UK, so basically we could have people from Pakistan move, and also once they become more politically active, they could open the door to more, I don't know, for example, Pakistanis even moving to the UK because they could change the laws to accept more migration as well, so to make it faster. But basically we get higher income level Pakistanis to come to UK and in a society and make them somewhat more have more income and more political power, change the laws, and then these Pakistanis will make money in the UK and then fund political organizations in the UK to fund Hamas against Israel. And at some point, the UK could be competing with the current Islamic Republic in Iran and Qatar when it comes to one of the greatest threats to funding or groups, militias and terrorist groups against Israel, given that, and now this one is actually a first world country and in the EU. So is this like something that we could be
Britain isn't
seeing?
in the EU.
I mean Europe, not EU.
Yeah.
Europe.
Like, look, now do you understand why I was texting you like that last night?
Yes. Okay, Mom.
Like, look, I share that fear. I worry about that.
All right, so
I worry about that.
I'm not admit. Okay. All right. Muhammad in the chat was also saying, Muhammad is saying, as someone in the UK, I share your fear, Armin. Okay. Okay, guys, we can panic. We're allowed to panic. Hit the panic button. But go on, Susan.
I don't know. I feel like this is why we need. Oh, and this is going to be a real problem. We're going to cover this next week in more detail, but there was this one girl that was recently elected in the UK that openly talks about how it's a deep concern of the Muslim community, how there's free mixing in public parks, meaning how there's free mixing of men and women in public parks. And that this person who's newly elected in the UK is like, yeah, we need to be doing something about the free mixing in the parks. Like, no, this is fucked. And wow. We'll talk about that more later. But I cannot reasonably blame anyone for being like, why the fuck did we bring this problem into our country? Imagine being like a British feminist and being like, what the hell did we fight for so long? But that's a different discussion.
You want to bring up this video that you told me? Okay, wait, hold on. What the hell is this? Like Avengers? Okay, you play.
Yes, this is the lawyers. Look at them. Okay, and we're gonna talk about some of these dudes later.
We are instructed by Hamas. We are today at the Home Office.
First of all, crazy sentence to start off with.
Wait, what? That's how they start the video?
Yes, this is their video.
Okay. What? Like they put Hamas on the video? Like they're Hamas not even hiding
That's
it.
what they call it. They like have this whole website for it. They have this whole website and they're calling it the Hamas case.
Like they're not even, this is not like they have completely taken the mask off and burned it. Like they haven't taken the mask, does not even exist. Like what? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Crazy way to start. Okay, let's continue.
We are instructed by Hamas. We are today at the Home Office and we are going to hand in an application under Section 4 of the Terrorism Act to have them removed from the list of proscribed organisations. We have the application in here which contains very, very strong legal arguments grounded in national and international law, and we're about to hand it in to Yvette Cooper and ask her to have some courage and make the correct decision.
What the hell is happening?
And they're doing this for free, by the way.
What the hell is happening to the UK? Like every time I think like people are exaggerating how bad things are, and then I see something like they're not exaggerating. They're actually, they should be talking about this more.
Yeah.
What the fuck happening? Oh, this is another one. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. I will unmute for you because I can unmute for some reason and you can't. Okay. Play now whenever you.
And I love the video published by none other than 5 Pillars, but that's a different discussion.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Frank McGuinness. I'm a barrister called to the Bar of England and Wales. I'm instructed by the Islamic Resistance Movement, or Hamas, to make an application addressed to the British Home Secretary under Section 4 of the Terrorism Act 2000. Today, Hamas are asking to be removed from the list of banned organisations. I have 3 things to say. Firstly, I'm going to discuss the context and the seemingly terminal crisis of Zionism and Israeli apartheid. Secondly, I'll explore the 2 historical examples of South African apartheid and British colonialism in Ireland, which shed light on the use of the term terrorism to ban organisations. Finally, I'll explain why, without supporting the organisation itself, you are able to support this application. Israel is now a pariah state and finds itself in a seemingly terminal crisis. In the International Court of Justice, the International Criminal Court, and in domestic jurisdictions, a growing number of judgments and opinions have now fundamentally damaged Israel's standing and reputation. The ICJ's advisory opinion from July last year concluded that Israel is an apartheid state and is committing racial segregation. From as early as the 2004 advisory opinion, it has been clear that Israel's occupation, which has now lasted for more than half a century, is illegal under international law. South Africa, along with a growing number of national governments, including the EU member states of Ireland, Belgium, and Spain, have accused Israel of committing genocide. In January 2024, the ICJ ruled that it was plausible that Israel was breaching the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. In November last year, the ICC issued arrest warrants against Israel's sitting Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and its former Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant. These men are literally...
You know what, guys, even if whatever he's saying is right, which is not, Hamas, how could you... Hamas said October 7th. You have people who attacked children, civilians. They raped and killed. They killed people's dogs. Like, even if Israel is apartheid and evil, what the hell? Like, all of what he's saying is a distraction from what Hamas stands for. Like, how could anybody even say these things with a straight face? Guys, don't fall in this trap, because when people say like, oh, Israel, this and this and that, they want you to be like, well, no, Israel, no. You did October 7th. You're supporting Hamas. Hamas is worse than ISIS. What the hell is happening here?
fugitives. Netanyahu cannot visit the territory of some of his closest allies for fear that they will arrest him. On Monday this week, the Metropolitan Police in Britain were handed a dossier of evidence and invited to prosecute 10 British nationals who stand accused of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity while serving in the Israeli armed forces. South Africa's Foreign Minister, Naledi Pandor, said of South Africans who fight in the Israeli army, I quote, "We are ready. When you come home, we are going to arrest you," end quote. Zionism is Israel's official ideology. It is the ideology of an apartheid regime and is explicitly racist. More and more people are reaching that conclusion. The ideology has become completely toxic, and even its staunchest allies are keenly aware of the increasingly unbearable price of associating with Zionism and Zionists. Israel is a pariah state. Its apartheid regime seems to be collapsing in front of our eyes. That raises the question of what will replace Israel if and when it collapses. That
Excuse me? Excuse me? Okay, this is just getting
Okay.
ready.
Okay, we just entered into Delulu land.
I'm saying good luck to everybody. Okay, yeah. Let's continue.
Like, sometimes people really think that it's like hanging on by a thread. Oh my word.
is the broader context in which this application by Hamas should be understood. This takes us to my second point, the historical examples of South African apartheid and Ireland. Let me start by talking about Nelson Mandela. Today, he is widely regarded as one of the most courageous freedom fighters in human history. His name is synonymous with profound integrity and with the personal sacrifices he made to confront and help defeat South African apartheid. In 1961, he founded Umkhonto we Sizwe, or the Tip of the Spear, the armed wing of the African National Congress. Britain and the United States were staunch allies of South Africa's apartheid regime of racial domination. At the notorious Rivonia trial, Mandela found himself addressing a judge who had the power to kill him. At that trial, Mandela said, I quote, "I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal for which I hope to live and to see realized. But my Lord, if it needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." End quote.
Just a quick reminder that South Africa was apartheid, and Israel is a country where Arab judges have sentenced 2 Jewish prime ministers to jail, and the 20% Arab population enjoys all the rights that the Jewish population do, and sometimes even more when it comes to military service, it being mandatory or not. So I don't know what your definition of apartheid is, but Israel is nothing remotely close to an apartheid. However, the Palestinian territories are definitely apartheid, because unlike in Israel, where Arabs could live, enjoy equal rights like the Jewish population, no Jew could even live in Gaza or the West Bank, let alone have equal rights. So if you're looking for apartheid, look into Gaza and the West Bank. But yeah, let's continue.
He was, of course, imprisoned for decades on Robben Island. After his eventual release, he served as the first black president in post-apartheid South Africa. So today, Mandela is regarded as a hero, but at the time, when it mattered most, he was labelled a terrorist, including by the British government. It's important to note how the passage of time and history can change people's perspective. Closer to home in Britain, we have the Irish example. The death of Bobby Sands while on hunger strike marks a pivotal turning point in the struggle for a united Ireland. At the time of his death, he sat on the Army Council of the Provisional IRA, a proscribed organisation. The hunger strike protested the Thatcher government's policy of criminalisation, summarised in her infamous suggestion, quote, "Crime is crime is crime. It is not political," end quote. From his prison cell, Bobby Sands won election to the British Parliament, and then he died from hunger. He was 27 years old. His electoral victory led to a fundamental strategic shift in Sinn Féin, the political wing of the Provisional IRA. The organisation's new policy of abstentionism helped lay the foundations for the Good Friday Agreement of 1998. Fast forward to today, Michelle O'Neill, a member of Sinn Féin, is the First Minister in Stormont, and Mary Lou MacDonald is the leader of the party. Mercifully, the north of Ireland is much more peaceful today than it was in Bobby Sands' time.
To be honest, I mean, I remember watching a documentary about Bobby Sands because I was trying to understand why people like worship him so much. And I was like, you are doing this shit because you want to not have to wear like a prison uniform and not do prison work and all this other stuff. And like you're smearing poo on the wall and you starved yourself to death over this. Like I genuinely entered with an open mind. And after watching it, I was like, what's the big deal? I don't know. It's like,
That was his activism, spreading poo on the wall.
That's one of the things that they did. Yeah, they were basically
Oh
to be
God.
like as oppositional as possible. And one of their things is that they didn't want to have to wear a prison. But that's what I remember sticking in my head the most. I was like, you don't want to wear a prison uniform? Like you're in prison, you have to wear a uniform. I mean, also like in case you escape, that's why we keep you in uniform. Like, what?
Right.
I don't know. I was like, I don't know, man. I was expecting to be a lot more sympathetic.
These two historical examples are referenced in the application. They provide important historical context for the way that people's perceptions of organizations designated as terrorist can and do change over time. This takes me to my third point, which is the application itself. What is it about? How can you understand it? And how can you support it if you want to? Someone can support an application for deprescription without supporting the organization that makes it. Nothing in the application changes the law as it currently stands, and all of the potential offences in relation to Hamas remain for as long as the Secretary of State maintains their prescription. The legal basis of the application is extensive, and I invite you to read it in full. For now, I will simply say that it rests in part on well-established principles of international law. One of those principles is that peoples under occupation have a right to use armed force to resist their occupiers. It also rests on principles under the European
Okay, there's laws. Okay, let me actually teach this person something about international law. First of all, they're not under occupation because they were given multiple chances many times to form a country, and they refused because they would have to recognize Israel as a country as well. So Israel multiple times throughout its history tried to give Palestinians an opportunity to be a country. They refused because they couldn't accept Israel being a country as well. They said it's all or not. One. But also, so that's not. If it's an occupation, it's self-inflicted. And also, even if it's true that Israel is evil and you're occupied, and under international law, you do have the right to armed self-resistance, which you do if you're under occupation under international law. There are some, under the same international law, there are standards for that. For example, mixing yourself with the civilian population will make your armed resistance illegal. Not wearing uniforms so that it's harder, using human shields and not wearing uniforms are illegal. Even if you're doing armed struggle, resistance struggle, killing the other side's civilians and children, for example, would make your armed struggle illegal. So don't just quote us one part of international law when it comes to your rights to arms resistance against occupation. Maybe look into all of it, Mr. Lawyer.
Convention on Human Rights, including those relating to free speech and expression under Article 10. In addition to legal arguments, the application also rests on facts and evidence. One such fact is that Hamas won an election in 2006. In conclusion, I am instructed by Hamas to make today's application. The apartheid state of Israel is in the process of collapsing, and Zionism is in a terminal crisis. This raises profound questions about what will replace it. History seems to tell us that it will be necessary for the British and other governments to speak to people and organizations who win elections, even and especially if one disagrees with some of their values and actions. The application has today been submitted to the British Secretary of State, and she is invited to take an important step towards peace by deprescribing Hamas. Gaurav Mayagiv, thank you.
Okay, this is absolutely insane. So what are the chances of this winning?
So my understanding is not very likely. So this they submitted it. I believe this has to be like reviewed in 90 days. Based on statements that have been made by Yvette Cooper and some other people in the government, it seems very unlikely that they would accept this. I think Yvette Cooper came forward and said, no, like Hamas is a terrorist organization, but they have to have like an official rejection or whatever that hasn't come out yet. At which point it could go through various appeals processes. It could not. It depends on the nature of the rejection, you know. But you know, we have due process. Things can go to appeal. Based on everything I've seen so far, people do not believe that this will in any way be successful. But people do, even if it's not successful, a lot of people worry about this. You could almost see it as a marketing tactic.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like even when a legal action or lawfare isn't successful, it can still have its own marketing power. And people are concerned about and they're worried about that impact within British society. One thing I do want to highlight is this law firm, because they have a little bit of a sketchy history of defending numerous accused Islamist terrorists over the years. So, for example, in October 2022, Riverway unsuccessfully challenged the Home Office's decision to exclude an Afghan national from the UK after he was assessed by MI5 to be an extremist who posed a risk to national security. So basically, there was an Afghan national where MI5 was like, no, this guy is a full-blown extremist. We're not going to allow him here. And they tried to challenge that. They failed. However, in June of 2021, they successfully challenged the Home Office's decision to refuse citizenship to an Algerian for his links to the, I don't know how to say this in French, but basically an Algerian terrorist Islamist outfit. And they were successful in that. They were successful in getting that guy citizenship. In November 2020, they successfully challenged the British government's decision to strip a British Pakistani man after he traveled to Syria to join ISIS.
Oh, lovely. Wow.
Yeah, lovely. The firm has also reportedly defended Muslims accused of sex crimes. Riverway successfully challenged the government's decision to strip Jin Jerigi of citizenship in August of 2023. The Albanian was convicted of raping a teenage girl and had lied about his nationality to obtain citizenship. And they successfully defended his citizenship. They successfully challenged the Home Office's decision to remove citizenship from a Pakistani man following his conviction of child rape. So they're like, no, we are going to defend. I mean, everyone has a right to defense, right? But it's just like when you look at the history of who you're defending and you're often helping them escape deportation. These are people that have been rendered to pose a threat to national security. And why would you continue to choose all of these kinds of cases when you can have great reputational damage to your firm? It's really weird. But of course, everyone is entitled to a defense, including Islamists. But when you have so many of these cases, people are going to be like, what the hell? I don't know. So what's also really concerning is one of the chief solicitor on this case. So that means like the lead lawyer. What's his full name? His last name is, I think it's Fahad Ansari. His last name is Ansari. Wait, where do I have it written down. Sorry. Yeah, Fahad Ansari is the lead solicitor. And he is a sketchy character himself. And there was a scandal triggered when people started reviewing his social media, and the lead lawyer on this case was calling the beheading of Israeli babies on October 7th imaginary, claiming that various hostages were safer with Hamas, making certain comments about hostages that were sexually assaulted that I do not want to repeat. Basically also there was an instance where he was literally posting some Hamas propaganda. And so the discovery of this hate speech is in violation of various regulations regarding solicitors or lawyers, right? And their regulatory agencies. So once this was discovered, he's been reported to some of the bodies that govern what lawyers are doing, and they're saying that this law firm needs to be investigated and possibly struck off, because so basically there was what's this guy's position? The Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Gendrick is saying, he noted, quote, a significant question as to whether Riverway has complied with their obligations under the UK sanctions regime and SRA's own published guidance and broader professional standards expected of solicitors. And he's saying, this is crazy to me. Fahad Ansari is a practicing lawyer who has been reported to counterterrorism policing on 6 occasions. For 2 decades, he has displayed public sympathy for terrorists from Hamas to the Taliban. He has, and then the Shadow Justice Secretary goes on to say that Ansari has, quote, publicly eulogized dead jihadists and called for the spirit of jihad to be revived in Britain, saying this isn't legitimate anti-Israel criticism that we respect as free speech. So now they're like, okay, this chief lawyer on this case himself needs to be investigated for what the hell he's saying. This is craziness. So I wanted to make sure that we, acknowledge this guy's deal.
By the way, regarding the claim that no babies were beheaded, okay, it's true. The problem with that statement is because a lot of people don't misunderstand why I'm saying that that's a problem. Okay, so it's true that there are no evidence of any babies being beheaded, but the thing is that babies were killed. And some other people, I think, were beheaded, and some people mix this together, and the mixing is incorrect. But the people who go around saying like no babies were beheaded, no babies were beheaded, are like, okay, babies were killed. Like I really don't care how. The fact is that the babies who lost their life that were murdered, after they're murdered, whether their head is attached to their body or not attached to their body is less of an issue. Okay, it's like. And it's a defense of Hamas, because imagine if somebody like kills their wife and somebody like, well, in defense of them, like, oh, he didn't behead his wife. Like, he didn't behead his wife. He didn't behead his wife. I'm like, okay, he killed his wife. Like,
well, I think of it like this. Like there was the misreporting about the 40 beheaded babies. And because that instance was exposed as misreporting, they throw that in the face of everyone trying to talk about the crimes that happened to delegitimize everything.
Exactly. That you basically explain it.
Which is so stupid because everyone knows that it's difficult to get facts on the ground in the fog of war. You know what I mean? Like, we all understand this, but that doesn't mean that all reporting that's happening coming out of there is all fake. It's that because that specific claim of that story happened like as October 7th was like breaking, like as fighters were still pushing back forces and killing terrorists. You know what I mean? I'm talking like fresh fog of war, fresh. We don't even fully like know what's going on fully.
Right. So then, actually, let me read. Yeah. No, go on. First, you go on.
Well, I mean, that just goes to say, like, it's a very cynical tactic to delegitimize everything.
Right. So it's like on October 7th, Yeah.
I think
Sorry,
of
I
it
thought
like
you were
the
done.
whole Ukraine situation with the Snake Island. That's what it was called, right? That whole
Right,
Snake
right, right,
Island
right.
thing. And it's like, okay, well, the way that people were advertising that didn't actually happen. But that doesn't mean that all the reporting out of what's happening to Ukrainians is bullshit.
Yeah. So basically, the summary of it is that there's a lot of evidence for absolute disgusting, vile crimes. And of course, some of them will be wrong. And these people, as a way to delegitimize all of those reports, they go find the ones that eventually, obviously, some of them will be wrong, to use them to basically delegitimize the whole, everything that happened. So let me just read this. On October 7th, Hamas killed at least 29 children in Israel. Babies were shot, burned, or killed while their parents tried to protect them. Some bodies were badly damaged, but there is no verified evidence of beheading. Okay, so they were burned, shot, and killed while their parents were witnessing it and trying to defend them. Okay, but hey, none of these babies were beheaded. Oh, wow. So, like, amazing. Good job. Like, Hamas completely whitewashed, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but other people were beheaded. I mean, I've watched it on video.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. Yeah. 29 children were killed, but these people are still defending Hamas. It's like a legitimate armed struggle. All right. So, do you want to read these comments from? So let's
this person is saying they might as well sit there in uniforms with headbands and balaclavas instead of suits, smoking mirrors of the highest order. This is complete and utter lunacy.
Exactly. And this one.
I did like this comment that D found.
That was good. Good job, D. That was a good one.
So this person is saying, like, arrest them and charge them with supporting a terrorist group, then raid their offices and find out who's funding them. So again, they're saying, oh no, we are pro bono. And we can't even accept funds because that'd be in violation of the law. And in fact, if you try to go to their website where you can go view their complaint for the Hamas case, as they call it, to enter the site, you have to acknowledge that you understand that their case is not them supporting the group.
How is it that in the UK, if you like a tweet that says, I don't know, something about trans people, the police might show up and arrest you? But this is not, I mean, that you didn't get paid for liking that post. So how could, so they're like, hey, why can't that be a defense for that guy? Like, hey, why is the police at my home? I liked this post on Facebook without getting paid. So how come?
Well, I mean, Armin, it's completely different. These are lawyers, and everyone has a right to defense.
I'm not saying this is okay I'm not suggesting that they should be arrested. I'm talking about the inconsistency. I'm just saying, why is it that you could arrest somebody in the UK for liking a post that is considered transphobic or bigoted, but this level of support for Hamas, which is as of right now in the UK is considered a terrorist group, why are they not getting arrested? Again, I think you misunderstood me. I'm not saying that they should be arrested. I'm just saying, why is there such an inconsistency?
Well, I mean, because I believe in two-tier policing, but that's a different conversation.
Okay, so Muhammad is saying they arrested for tweets or liking tweets in the UK is massively overstated. Okay, but I have seen videos of police showing up to people's houses for their posts on tweets and liking stuff. I'm not saying I didn't make a comment about how often it happens, but I know
the fact that it happens at all is insane.
Yeah, it has happened. I'm not, like, when you say overstated, it would be overstated if I said it happened by this much, but it only is happening by that much. But I know that at least it's happening sometimes. So I don't know. Yeah. Okay. By the way, we got a lot of super chats and support this time.
Yeah, let's go through the super chats. Okay, so John is saying, Oh, thank you for the super chat, John. Saying, thinking of getting into your technology/AI channel, Armin. By the way, have you seen at Jesus is Busy, aka God Loves Dogs content on YouTube? Thank me later. Okay, apparently this is something we need to look into.
Wait, what is it? God Loves Dogs content. Okay. Jesus baby. Okay, I will try to remember this.
This sounds like some chaos.
But okay, but also here's what he's talking about, guys. I have a personal channel called Armin Navabi where I talk about the future of technology, AI, and everything. So that's what he's talking about. And thank you, John.
Granny Rose gave a $1 super chat with no comment. Thank you, Granny.
Thank you for your support.
How does calling Hamas terrorists violate their free speech? So no, the idea is that because it's against UK law to be a member of an organization, to have clothing that would lead one to reasonably believe that you're supporting an organization, like etc., that the free speech of people within Britain is being violated. So that's part of it. And I answered that question. Okay. Oh, and Kenny also gifted 5 Atheist Republic memberships. Thank you so much, Kenny.
Thank you. Thank you, Kenny.
Amit is celebrating his membership. Thank you, Amit. Saying, can you react to the H3 Hassan Piker debate, please? No, I will not, because I like my peace of mind too much.
I might. How long is it? Can we cover it in one
long.
stream?
Extremely long.
Maybe I will find highlights. Did you watch it, or is it too bad?
I don't want to watch it. I very purposefully am like, I'm not watching this, to be honest.
Okay. I will consider it. I might. Yeah. How about this? If there are a lot of comments.
Both of them have displayed behavior in the past that is they have acted in extreme bad faith in the past. So I'm like, I'm not really inclined to want to watch either of y'all. Gaijin celebrating his membership for 40 months.
40 months.
Gaijin King over here. Saying, would y'all consider the Dalai Lama a terrorist? I mean, to be completely honest, I'm just not knowledgeable enough to know about any specific activity to be able to say that one way or another.
I don't like the fact that he sucks on a little boy's tongues in that video.
Happened one time.
Okay, but I don't know. I don't know enough about him.
And Aiden gave a super chat saying, add the 2 Beavis brothers to the 29 killed on October 7th. Well, they're victims of the attack. Yeah.
Add the 2 Beavis brothers. Yes. Okay. Yes. Good. Yeah. Thank you for reminding us about that. That's good too. And thank you for the super chat.
Okay, so let's go to the next story.
Okay, is it clappable?
No.
Oh shit. Okay. Next news.
Massacre of Christians in Nigeria. 20 killed in 1 week. Media silent. In just 1 week, 200 Christian. Did I say 20 killed in 1 week? Let me start over. I misspoke. Okay. Next news. Massacre of Christians in Nigeria. 200 killed in 1 week. Media silent. In just 1 week, 200 Christians were slaughtered in Nigeria's Middle Belt by suspected Fulani militants in what local officials are calling a genocide. Yet major international media outlets remain virtually silent. On Palm Sunday, 56 villagers, including 15 children, were butchered in Zike Plateau State, their bodies left to burn in their homes. Quote, the corpses of deceased women, children, and senior citizens were left in their homes, which were torched as they left the village, reported Truth Nigeria. Just days later, 56 more were massacred in Benue State. Plateau Governor Caleb Muftwang didn't mince words. Quote, "What happened in the last 2 weeks in Bokos is genocide. I say it unreservedly." The attackers, reportedly Muslim Fulani jihadists, are part of a years-long campaign against the Christian farming communities, which groups like Christian Solidarity International have warned about as early as 2020. Despite repeated atrocities and growing calls for action, Western leaders and media continue to downplay or ignore what many are now describing as religiously driven extermination campaign. So, like I said earlier, I wanted to talk about this because, we've been kind of following this for some time. And I actually wanted to dig into what's going on with the Fulani jihadism a little bit more, because I keep hearing about these attacks repeatedly, and I'm like, but there's mixed signals, right? And so, first of all, I want to talk about the nature of these attacks, because I want people to understand the level of what's going on here. Okay, so in this picture right here, you see this little boy. This little boy, he's 7 years old, and he lost his entire family in this most recent attack. His name is Nenche. Nenche is 7 years old. And you see he has these bandages on his head and around the back of his head. Why does he have these bandages on his head? Well, because in the middle of the night, his family was asleep in their home, and these Fulani herdsmen break into their home, shoot the dad dead, cut off his mom's arms, take machetes to the backs of the heads of his siblings, slash him with a machete, and leave him for dead. And some extended relatives find him barely alive, when the carnage is over and people are regrouping. So this is the nature of this attack. Brutal, straight up jihadi shit. I'm talking like the pattern of these attacks, which has been going on for a very long time now, is like there's been instances where you full-blown go purposefully target an entire congregation of Christians while they are in a worship service and go set the whole building on fire when everyone is inside for their religious service. I'm talking full machetes, telling people as they're attacking them, Allahu Akbar, we are going to make this land Fulani, etc., etc. I'm talking in previous attacks, survivors have said, yeah, I was with my family and they came to attack our village and they raped my 11-year-old daughter before they killed her, and they killed all my sons, and then they raped me. And I ran for my life. Like this is the level of attack going on. And so let me actually, that brings me to, I prepared some stuff to explain this. So wait, let me pull this up. 1 second, because it helps me a lot to look at this geographically. Okay.
This is stuff of nightmares.
Wait, is it? Come on, up. Go up. Add to stage. Oh my God, I hate the new StreamYard thing. Here we go. Okay. So this primarily happens in Nigeria's Middle Belt, as it is known. Okay. So historically, the northern part of Nigeria is Muslim, and the southern part of Nigeria is Christian. And it's many different types of Christians. We have Catholics, we have Anglicans, and, various types, maybe Pentecostal, evangelical, whatever. And so we have this Middle Belt region, and in many ways, the Middle Belt is thought of as the breadbasket of Nigeria. And in this area, there's a lot of, sedentary, like pastoral farmers doing the work to provide this breadbasket, this bread belt. And so, like, where is these attacks happening? This is an old map that I found. This is from 2018. So, and this is kind of one of the more recent ones that I could find. But obviously, this has gotten way worse in recent years. But this is just, I want to kind of give at least some kind of visualization to people about where this is happening, because this helped me understand things more. So the worst area affected is down here. And based on my research, because this is from 2018, that this continues to be the worst affected region. But you can see how it maps on top of this map. So some of the worst states are in, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, like Benue and Plateau are some of the worst hit. And you can see that, visualized here. And so what's so insidious is that a lot of the international community frames and explains this violence as an ecological phenomenon. And they say that, we're dealing with an ethnic group, the Fulani, they speak their own language. So there's an ethnic element to this. They're Muslim, the sedentary farmers are Christian, they're also of a different ethnicity, they're indigenous. And the Fulani are these herdsmen, and they're dealing with environmental degradation. And also, there's like instances of cattle rustling. So like theft of cattle, and then it becomes like a tit for tat. And that, the herdsmen, the Fulani herdsmen are dealing with this degradation that is causing them to feel threatened. And, the Sahel region is experiencing desertification. And so this is reducing the grazing land for the herdsmen. And so they have to migrate southward and expand where they can graze into these pastoral areas. And so that's a very broad overview of how they give a ecological explanation.
Are they downplaying the religious nature of it?
Yes, to the point that in many reports they actually do not mention it at all. So, for example, under the previous Trump administration, Nigeria was listed as a country of particular concern for religious freedom violations. And this is an important function of the the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, or USRIF, because this helps inform the State Department about how they're going to engage with certain governments, right? And then under the Biden administration removed that designation. And the Biden administration removed that designation partially because of this ecological explanation, despite certain reports that have been published by our own State Department, by Antony Blinken's own State Department. Like, that explanation is in conflict with some of their own reporting. And they also said that, Nigeria should be not listed in this category because it's not the Nigerian government itself doing this. However, that explanation itself is in conflict with our own designations for countries of particular concern, because our standard is not that the government itself is necessarily the one pulling the trigger, so to speak. Our standard is also that they tolerate it. And the Nigerian government systematically tolerates it because there's been virtually no arrests for these years of massacres. There are reports from leaders of these Christian communities saying we are not allowed to arm ourselves. If people from our groups are found with so much as a pistol, we get arrested. But meanwhile, these Fulani jihadi herdsmen have been supplied with like automatic weapons for as far back as the 80s, according to some stuff I was reading. And they've all these like
They're sitting
AKs.
ducks.
Exactly, they're sitting ducks, and that's even what they're saying. There's like Catholic bishops coming out and being like, we need to defend ourselves. Like, we need to be armed. We need to be able to defend ourselves. And there's other things that play into this. There is systemic kidnapping that happens against Christian leaders. They get taken hostage. They get put up for ransom. If the ransom cannot be paid, and that ransom, by the way, puts further economic pressure on these communities. If the ransom cannot be paid, oftentimes people get executed. There was a torture camp that was uncovered outside of a Nigerian army base where dozens of people were kidnapped and held in this torture camp for over 2 months before people realized what was happening and they freed them. Like, it's crazy shit. And so the idea that, and according to, for example, like the UN, there's certain documentation that has been published by the UNHCR in which, oh my God, it's so bleak. They there's this association that essentially like represents kind of the interests of the Fulani herdsmen. And I can't remember the full name off the top of my head, but it's like the Mayeti Association. And the Mayeti Association has been implicated in weaponizing some of these herdsmen. And according in this UNHCR report, they take this Mayeti Association's word as, oh, this is just an ecological thing. So the Mayeti Association is saying, oh no, we're doing this because this is very ecological. We have all these pressures facing us, blah blah blah. And they take their word for that within the report. But meanwhile, like, that group has been implicated in the arming of many of the groups doing this violence. Now, one thing I do want to clarify is that the Fulani are not the only people doing violence against Christians in Nigeria. You also have Boko Haram. That's been active for a very long time. You also have ISIS. So a lot of people don't know that ISIS is very active. One of the most places it's most active is in Africa. And one of the threats to Christians in Nigeria is ISWAP. So it's Islamic State Western African Province. And so that would be the third primary source of violence against Nigerians Christians in Nigeria. So it's not exclusively the Fulani herdsmen, but these attacks follow a very clear pattern, and they purposefully target religious places of worship. They purposefully target people while they are worshiping. They mention as they are attacking that they want to make the land Fulani. So many people, and I was watching this testimony by Nina Shea, who's an academic at the Hudson Institute, used to work for USRIF. She's a Bradley Prize winner. I have a lot of respect for her. She was giving this testimony about it, being like, the jihad aspect of this is purposefully seemingly ignored, where they don't talk about how this is a Muslim group systematically attacking a Christian group, and it is disproportionately against Christians, and all of the internally displaced persons are disproportionately Christian. But that's like completely whitewashed out of it. And the Nigerian government is complicit in tolerating this violence. They're not doing it enough, to the point that now the own governor of one of these states, Plateau State, himself, the governor himself, is saying this is a genocide, and I call it that unreservedly. Yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, what is the motivation behind not downplaying the Islamic element of these attacks? Like, why?
That's a really good question. Some people, according to reports I was reading, they are afraid to speak up. Mm-hmm. They're like literally afraid to speak up because if within Nigeria, if you say that, you could be next. For example, various Christian leaders who have spoken out have been attacked. There was even a Muslim leader who, when we talk about the lynching case of Deborah Samuels before, Deborah Samuels was a college student that was lynched and burned because she was accused of blasphemy in a WhatsApp message, right? An extreme, very extremely violent case that happened within the past few years. And there was a Muslim leader who merely condemned that lynching of that woman, and people came and set his property on fire in a mob. So, like, there is within Nigeria, like, a real threat to speaking up.
Okay.
And I want to point out one thing that I thought was very interesting. In fact, wait, let me.
I have a second question when you have time.
Yeah, now would be a good time.
Okay, how much of these attacks do you think is a marketing tactic between these Islamic groups? So, for example, you said ISIS, and then now this Boko Haram and this group. What is their name again? For what?
Fulani.
Yeah. So, is it like going out and attacking a church and killing the people or burning the people alive? Is that a way for Fulani to advertise to potential recruits that, like, don't join ISIS? Look at, like, does it work like a billboard, like, to show relevancy, like to show that they're relevant, that they're doing things?
Look, I'm not an expert in this, so my impression is that would be more of a tactic of ISWAP or even Boko Haram. But the Fulani is very heavily tied to a specific ethnic group. So I don't know to what extent. It doesn't seem like there's, like, recruitment. You know what I mean? Like, the people who are studying this are saying that this is part of a Islamization of the space of these pastoral lands.
Okay.
And it's also a Fulanization. They say it's a Fulanization of this pastoral space.
So something like Taliban, which is Islamization, but also Pashto supremacy mixed with each other. So this is like, so it's Islamism mixed with some racial supremacy. Okay.
Yeah, against, like, the indigenous Christian Nigerians. But so out of curiosity,
when you want to show something else, the way that works in StreamYard right now is you first click on remove on what.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I was just waiting.
Okay.
So out of curiosity, I wanted to go look at this source, and this is a source called Genocide Watch, and this was founded by a guy who actually predicted the Rwandan genocide, and they do a lot of work on genocide prevention and also the study of genocide. And out of curiosity, I went to go see where, and in their model of genocide, there are 10 stages. And I wanted to see where Nigeria was at in regarding this, because, it's a very serious word to use. And I was like, oh my God, like, the governor of their own state is saying this is a genocide, and I'm saying it openly without reservation. You know what I mean? Like, wow, that's a very serious thing to say. And where they grade Nigeria at is emergency status. So that means, like, this is imminent, or this is it's an emergency, okay? And they grade the genocide stages as active extermination and denial. So that's the stage that they say that this is at. And I was like, okay, out of curiosity, for comparison, how do they grade Israel Palestine as a comparison point? Just to understand, how they perceive things, how it's relative. Out of curiosity, I wanted to go see to help me understand, where we're at relatively speaking. They don't say the same thing. They say warning, alert status warning, in the stages of 5, 6, and 7 of organization, polarization, and preparation. but not the
Good.
active stage of extermination.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. That was
okay. Interesting. Okay.
an interesting comparison point for me.
Mm-hmm.
For example, what I was
These
like,
are
okay.
These are experts in recognizing genocide who work behind this?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, so what would be another state where they have it as a status of emergency?
Mm-hmm.
Like the situation in China with the Uyghurs, they also grade as emergency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because
so this is a good source to refer to then.
Yeah, and it's not a word that I want to it's something that needs to be used like very seriously. You know what I mean? And so it just helped me to understand like where are we at and how do they grade other crises around the world? You know what I mean? So they say that they're actually at the stage of extermination. Begins and quickly becomes the mass killing legally called genocide. It is extermination.
Yeah. So given this, where are all the anti-genocide activists like and in Harvard and other universities in the US? Like these are minorities and these are being like in their own they're being oppressed. This is an act of genocide happening in real time in front of our eyes. By the way, can we guys appreciate Dee and Susanna for the news today? Because I didn't hear about any of this anywhere else. I would have been clueless unless Susanna and Dee brought this to our attention. So can you guys can we spend just a little bit of a time appreciating these people, because they go, as you can see, they didn't just come and say what's happening. There was a lot of research that went into this, so thank you to you both. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, this is like kind of area of conflict we've been talking about some time, and so I actually wanted to go like dig into it further, really try to understand what's going on more behind the scenes. And I think it's so in the testimony given by Nina Shea about this, she expresses this like deep frustration over all these different agencies and bodies around the world, as she puts it, giving a solely materialistic explanation for this violence that's happening. And she's saying this cannot be explained merely as just ecological. You cannot explain this merely just as about material conditions. Like this is because Zaid asked a question and he's saying, I'm confused about whether this is ethnically motivated or religiously motivated. I think it's both.
Both.
I think it's both.
I don't think correct me if I'm wrong, we're not also denying the ecological, these are multifactorial. Like we're not denying the ecological factors, and we just don't want to downplay the religious element of it and also the ethnic element of it. Like most things in life are not like, just that simple that you could just be like, it's this. It's multifactorial, but some of these factors do get downplayed and some of them don't. And I think that we think like the religious aspect of it is being downplayed.
Yeah, and I think that's really disturbing because according to Genocide Watch and how they look at things, when they give something the label of emergency, as they have labeled Nigeria emergency, they say a genocide emergency is declared when the genocidal process has reached the stage of massacres and other acts of genocide.
Right.
So they're like, we're at that point. And it's shocking to me that there is no, I mean, look, I know we have some Christian viewers. Like if I was a Christian, I would be so outraged that there is no recognition that Nigeria is the most deadly place in the world to be a Christian. That's crazy to me. You know what I mean? Like, there's so little attention being paid. So again, but going back to the testimony given, like people are saying Nigeria needs to be redesignated as a country of particular concern And then when it is, then we will be mandated to approach it in international platforms in a certain way and exert certain pressure and try to hold them to account and demand better and yada, yada, yada. So I hope this gave people a broader understanding of what's going on, because we've talked about some of these crazy massacres that happened without and kind of wondered about, well, what's really going on here. And so that's why I wanted to take the time to go learn about it.
Okay.
And oh my God,
comments,
like the survivor accounts of these attacks are crazy. It's like, and this has been going on for years. So imagine like your broader community being confronted with machete jihadi attacks for years. Mass beheading attacks for years. And then the jihadis are treated like victims. Because it's infuriating. All around the world, it is so infuriating. Oh no, we're the victims. We behead people and we're so intolerant to everyone that's different than us. We only need one word to be said for us to go kill all our neighbors. Look at what's happening to the Druze right now. Only one word needs to be said for us to go just light up people next to us. It's crazy. Who is like that?
Okay, but by the way, let me actually highlight something in the chat. So you can see somebody with the symbol of Allah in the middle is saying fake news, LOL. Right? So it's good to. I'm so grateful that you're here with the symbol of Allah is saying that, because it really helps us demonstrate. Because this is actually verified news. This is you guys could go check. This is verified news. But look the way that Christians are being killed, and he's saying fake news, LOL. And it's really helpful that you have that Allah in your profile to show what you and your religion stands for. Thank you for that. Thank you for educating our audience.
Yeah. This person in a comment that D found is saying, I'm from Nigeria. Our press doesn't report the killings. I'm by far more knowledgeable about what happens in Gaza and Israel than I am about the attacks on fellow Christians here in Nigeria. And my ignorance isn't willful. There's just nothing about it in the news. Sad.
It's crazy. Oh, there's more here.
They should also give them some weapons. That reminds me of something that I've been feeling lately, especially with what's going on. I swear to God, if you were a religious minority in close to proximity to a majority Muslim population in, a country that doesn't have the freaking rule of law, you need to be armed to the teeth. I don't care what anyone says. You should never accept disarmament. It's insane. It's freaking insane. You should, like, the idea that, especially in the Middle East, the idea that any given minority group, whether ethnic or religious, should accept disarmament is you're asking for them to do suicide. Fuck that.
Yep, I agree.
It was funny. I was texting Zaid, and I was like half joking, saying that Israel needs to become like the Power Rangers for minorities in the Middle East. I imagine like with the Power Rangers where they like all put their hands in and they're like, Power Rangers, go! Like, create a little mutual defense agreement all around the region. Just be like, if you're fucking with one of us, we're coming for all of you.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
I never understood the appeal of Power Rangers, even as a child.
Oh, okay. Armin was a hipster child. Okay. Actually, to be fair, when Power Rangers came out, you were not a child anymore. So
I was a child. I remember watching this and I'm like, this is cringe. and I was a child, and I watched popular show. I wasn't a hipster.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you were a kid.
Yeah. See.
Yeah, that's
She
that
did it quick. Okay, so we have 2 super chats.
Oh, we do. Thank you for reminding me. Kenny sent a super sticker with no comment. Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you.
And Gajan said, Armin, have you considered debating a communist?
I mean, I have. I don't know if you guys want me to do more. I could
When
do
was
it.
the
Yeah,
last
I
time
should-
you debated a communist?
I don't remember actually. Actually, I do it. I have done it a lot on the Persian channel, and
That's actually fair. On the
yes,
so go learn
yes,
Farsi.
Yeah, I think like a lot of there used to be a lot of communists that were waiting to debate me, and then I did a couple of debates, and it didn't end up very good for them. I was really good at crushing their arguments. So now all the people they watch my shows debating the communists, and now all the other people who were asking to come debate me, they all basically backed off, and now it's difficult now to get a communist to come debate me. So maybe I don't know. We'll see if I could do it on the English channel. I don't know how much demand for it there is on this channel, because we don't talk economics here a lot. We talk politics and religion.
Dude. I don't know.
But on the Persian channel, it's a big topic because we lost Iran to not just Islamists, but it was a unity. It was basically the 1979 Islamic Revolution. It wasn't an Islamic revolution. It was a communist Islamic revolution. So the fact that communists are still in Iran trying to be relevant, a lot of anti-regime nationalist groups are sometimes even more aggressively trying to stand up against the rise of communist groups in Iran, sometimes more than even Islamist group. Yeah, so that's why it's a hot topic on the Persian side.
Yeah. Can I just take a diversion to say that I'm so freaking pissed about this attack on the Druze that happened?
Yeah.
I got so fired up. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I did a stream about it. I thought we were going to do a stream. I was okay with doing today, cover it today as well, but we're not doing that because I did a stream on it, right? Because you and D have found some really good comments that I was hoping maybe if I cover it again, I will use the tweets that you guys have found, because it was very interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just filled with this anger about like the sheer level of intolerance.
Okay, can I just, now that you're saying that, can I
genocidal hatred of like anyone different and other, and all you need is like one word, one fatwa, one blood libel, one fake accusation of blasphemy, and you're willing to go like door to door to try to kidnap people's sisters and daughters while they're off on a different field freaking shooting people down trying to defend their town. It's insanity. The moral bankruptcy is just crazy. Just again and again and again and again and again, it's the same jihadi bullshit over and over again, all around the world. All around the world. And then the cry bullying and playing victim. It's hard for me to have any sympathy. It's so infuriating. Wanting all the tolerance and all the acceptance in the world and demonstrating none of it when they're in power and when they're a majority. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, we should go to the next news, which is I mean, it's good news. So we could this last news was horrible. So we need a good news to recover from that a bit.
Yeah.
But Carl just gave us a super chat saying good stream, 5 out of 5. Well, thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sir John, I have to call you out for a second. You're being such an asshole. I literally went on the stream last week to talk about how I was crying about what happened in Kashmir. And you seem to act like because that isn't the only word coming out of my mouth that I don't care. You're so bad faith. And instead of identifying when someone is an ally, you would rather demonize them when we're your ally. You alienate people yourselves.
Exactly.
So stupid. As if I had, yeah, for years I've been being like, I have no sympathy for the free Kashmir. But that's never good enough. Never good enough.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Anyways, let's go to the next news.
Good point. Yeah, these people, guys, these people, no matter what you give them, they will keep changing their requests until you fully submit. They're basically kind of like Islamists. Like the woke and some of these lunatics are kind of like Islamists, because no matter how much you give them, how much you support them, they want the full submission or nothing else. And basically they're different versions of Islam. All right, so can we clap for the next news?
Sure.
Next news.
Jordan bans Muslim Brotherhood after terror pot exposed. Okay. In a dramatic escalation, Jordan has officially banned the Muslim Brotherhood and seized its assets following revelations of a terror plot allegedly orchestrated by members of the group. Interior Minister Mazen Fraya announced on April 23rd that all activities promoting the Brotherhood or its ideology would be criminalized, citing the group's role in a years-long plot to destabilize the Hashemite kingdom. Authorities say 16 members, trained and financed in Lebanon, were arrested for manufacturing rockets and drones intended for attacks inside Jordan, with weapons and covert missile labs reportedly being discovered in residential areas. Quote, members of these dissolved Muslim Brotherhood have tampered with security and national unity, the Interior Ministry said. The crackdown included raids on offices and confiscation of Brotherhood-linked documents. While the group denies the accusation, its political wing, the Islamic Action Front, which is Jordan's largest opposition party, claimed that, quote, it had no relationship with any other organizational body. The ban threatens to upend Jordan's already fragile political balance as the Brotherhood's grassroots support remains strong in urban areas. So there is a lot that I want to cover here. And so basically, the Jordanian authorities have been aware of this plot for many years now. And I think there was one source I was reading that was saying as far back as 2021. And they decided to say enough is enough. We're pulling you guys in now. And so some important context to understand is that the Jordan cracked down on the Muslim Brotherhood off the top of my head, I think in 1999. I could be a little bit off. But basically, broad portions of the Muslim Brotherhood as an organization went under severe crackdown and got banned many years ago. But there was a portion of it that was allowed to remain under certain restrictions, right? And the portion of it that was allowed to remain was the political party, which is the Islamic Action Front. Now, what's really important to understand is that, actually, am I misremembering the date? So basically, many years ago, Hamas got kicked out of Jordan because, they're undermining Jordan's sovereignty. And, and I'll touch on this again, but because of things like Black September, Jordan is very sensitive to when people are forming a state within the state. Very, very sensitive to people forming a state within the state. So the modern political party, the Islamic Action Front, the IAF, really captured on the stronghold of majority or very large Palestinian urban populations since October 7th. And they used that sentiment to make a lot of promises and use a lot of strong language to make major gains within the governing body of Jordan. It was this huge win because now they're the largest opposition party, but because of a few seats or whatever, they don't have full control. And it's a tenuous situation because people wonder how far the government will go on cracking down on them, because they have been able to garner so much popular support recently since October 7th. So some people wonder, like, if they crack down too hard now, essentially that might bite them in the ass. So in the immediate, they might have to be very targeted with who they start prosecuting. They might have to be very delicate, because if they go down too hard, they don't want to strike up all out confrontation, because there's so much public anger over Gaza and there's economic hardship, and the Muslim Brotherhood had such a large recent election victory that all-out confrontation could lead to a much more vigorous challenge of the government and of the monarchy. Like, is that making sense so far? Okay. So one analyst that I was reading, he was saying that one less severe approach could include some measured steps, like curtailing a lot of their power without like fully outlining them, like enforcing the ban on the Muslim Brotherhood, but allowing the IAF to continue operating, or making very like targeted action against specific members, particularly those still like really close to Hamas. I mean, there were instances of them organizing marches and protests in major cities and having Hamas figures come and, virtually address the demonstrations and making speeches, or issues of people displaying Hamas logos, like very explicit support for Hamas, the flags, the headbands, the whatever. And that's a little bit of a no-no. It's a little bit of a no-no. But there are many people that are saying that, like, the Jordanian state has to do a very delicate dance where they have to show a lot of sympathy and like make a lot of action, like they are the voice of the Palestinian people, because of what's happening domestically. But that it's a double-edged sword, because they have to do that to try to keep people calm and like with them to a certain extent. But it's a double-edged sword, because them doing that also legitimizes things, and then might actually cause people to demand more and ask, why aren't you doing more? You should be going harder. Like, the IAF is pushing for Jordan to end its peace deal, end normalization with Israel, for example. That's one thing that they were pushing for in the elections. Well, look, I don't think that's going to happen. But they like these very grandiose, kind of moves and statements. And so, especially the monarchy, they have to do this delicate dance. Armin,
because it's their
what do you
own
think?
lives at stake. It's like there are many people in Jordan who are hoping for the day that they could behead the king and the queen for betraying the Palestinian people, put their heads on a spike, and basically get revenge for being what they consider to be allies of Israel. And these people are not just trying to save their country; they're also trying to save their own ass. The king and queen.
And here's the thing, like, I've had a lot of criticism for the monarchy in Jordan for many different things. You know, King Abdullah has been like trying to go through this process over many years to kind of like revise their democratic system to gradually try to make it like a bit more democratic. And to be honest, some analysts I've been reading are saying that this whole affair is going to be a setback in that process. And I was like, look, you can have a lot of criticism of King Abdullah, right? The thing is he's keeping things stable.
Yeah, and also,
go ahead.
A lot of people use this as an example of how, again, I don't speak in such collective languages, so I'm just quoting other people. I mean, we have a Palestinian here in the chat who's Zaid, who is on our side, right? But a lot of people who say that the Palestinian people, they say, are very ungrateful, and whenever you help them, they eventually come and bite the hand that fed them. When Palestinians went to Lebanon, they ruined Lebanon. And when Jordan, the country, as a country, when they allowed Palestinians to come to Jordan to be able to settle there, they formed a terrorist group and tried to topple the regime. And Jordan was like, well, we allowed these people to come here and basically settle here, and we were welcoming to them and nice to them. And now they're like, oh, okay, thank you. Can we topple the regime now? And they were, and that was before, that was that PLO's time. Right, that was before we had these. At that time, the Palestinian terrorism was more secular in nature than today. But Jordan basically had this very like they have bad experience with the Palestinian, and now the Palestinian population in Jordan is between 50 to 60%, and a lot of these people are considered the country that they're in right now to be a traitor. And imagine 60%, including the queen. The queen is Palestinian too, right? But 60% of your population is Palestinian, and they consider the government of their country to be a traitor and on Israel's side. This is a very unstable situation. And a lot of people think that this is a ticking bomb. Jordan could be a ticking bomb at some point. I don't know if they're exaggerating.
Because there's a part of me where, like, sometimes, I don't know, the queen will come out and say something that, like, pisses me off. And then I think about it.
They I'm have to.
No, she 100% in their strategic interest has to say that. I'm not saying that it's disingenuous. I'm not. It could be completely sincere, but either way, it is 100% within their strategic interest to say that. Even no matter if I'm like, yeah, that's wrong. Blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? And yeah, Zayd is saying the monarchy is the only thing keeping Jordan from becoming Syria or Afghanistan. People don't understand how much of a huge role they play in keeping the minority safe. Let me tell you something. This whole situation has made me understand the perspective of the Arab monarchists that I'm familiar with so much more. I used to be like, like these Arab monarchists, they kind of have an interesting point. I mean, I guess that's their experience, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, I'm really starting to see what they're getting at. Like, yeah, I think at a certain point, you have to say, if we don't have this stability, like the economic progress that we do have will be utterly robbed of us. We'll fall into utter poverty and we'll just spiral from there. So what is the calculation you want to make?
Yeah. I mean, I used to naively think, like, democracy everywhere you need to have democracy everywhere. Everywhere is ready for democracy always, right? But I mean, if your population is like Jordan, I mean, you're not ready for democracy. You're just not ready for democracy. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out over time. And in what way like further crackdown materializes. I mean, the fact that they found them conducting this whole like a years-long sabotage plot. Look, let's just say that's a little bit of a trigger point for the Hashemite kingdom. A sabotage plot. We saw how that panned out last time. Like, no, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah. So, yeah. All Muslim Brotherhood activities would be banned in the country, and anyone promoting the group's ideology will be held accountable by law. The ban includes publishing anything by the group and the closure and confiscations of its offices and property. So they're like, we have had enough. You played your hand, and we're shutting you down.
Okay, and here's some comments that D highlighted. Oh.
This person is saying, one can only hope the Western nations follow suit. I agree. There's way too much Muslim Brotherhood tied stuff going on all across Europe and North America.
Oh. So, by the way, for people, before you read this, for context, Echewan means brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
So, Echewani ideology means Muslim Brotherhood ideology. Okay, so go ahead.
So he's saying, okay, so they ban the UAE government is focused on designating the Muslim Brotherhood as terrorists. Ironic because they shake hands with Zionists. Such steps are made to appease their masters that they aren't radical but rather progressive Muslims. This is, I mean, if you look at the profile picture, this is a freaking jihadi, Somali jihadi wannabe. Yeah, God forbid an Arab ruler identified that these people are going to destabilize their entire country and render their entire people into poverty. And they're like, I think we have an interest to prevent that. Maybe it's for the betterment of all of our citizens if we don't allow that. Well.
Yeah. By the way, Zaid, as a Palestinian himself, is saying, I support the Jordanian government completely. My problem with Jordan is the people, not the government. By the way, Zaid is our very own Zionist Palestinian. Is that a friend in the chat? Which is always good to have him here because he gives us perspectives that no one else. Guys, if you have questions for my Palestinian in the chat, always ask Zaid your questions if you want to get his perspectives. Okay. So, do you want
we
to
got some super chats?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we read this one. Carl is just saying, good stream, 5 out of 5. Thank you, Carl. Flip gave a super chat saying, Armin and Susie, commend you both for continuing to cover and bring insight into hard topics. Thank you. Thank you, Flip. Thank you for supporting the channel and making sure that we can keep going. And or Hirschfield is asking, did you already contact Mansour Khalifa?
Mansour Khalifa and Khalifa?
These are Israeli Jews, Druze, commentators and content creators.
I contacted the other person you guys told me, and I already got a confirmation that we're gonna have a show.
Oh wait, so, who? Tell me.
The Ashkar guy, Mansour Ashkar. Hold on.
Yeah, that's one of the guys that he's talking about here.
Why is my Twitter not loading? It's weird. Yes. Okay. So, Mansour, yes, but Khalifa. Who's this Khalifa? Can you give me a full name?
Khalifa. That's his name.
Oh, Khalifa. Okay, so I'm supposed to contact him too.
He does streams with Mansour. And Mansour.
Oh wait, I think I'm actually. Hold on, let me see. I think I'm going to be doing a podcast with Khalifa Halabi. Is that his? Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I'm doing a podcast with both of them at the same time. I was contacted by this Druze woman, Giulia,
Julia?
and it's a G. It's not a J. It's a gay. It's a G. G is a gay sound, not the J sound.
I'm
don't know
pretty
how
sure
to
it's
read
Julia.
it. Julia. Okay, I thought Julia is written with a J. Okay, with Julia, invited. She reached out to me and invited me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, isn't Julia with a J? Yeah, Julia is with a J. So I was I'm not mispronouncing things. Okay. No, I mean, if I'm mispronouncing it, I have the justification. Armin is having a stroke. Guys, I'm just checking Julia's with a J, not with a G. So a G has a G sound, not a J sound. Julia. All right.
Wait, is this going to be on our channel or their channel?
Okay, guys, I don't know these people. I'm only getting introduced to this Druze community, but I was honored to be contacted before I even contact them. And apparently they have a podcast that I would be a guest in. And then I told Mansoor that, oh, okay, Julia, she already invited me. And then Mansoor Ashkar corrected that, like, okay, that's going to be on their podcast. But we were having a discussion about having a show on our channel. So apparently then Mansoor, like, okay, we could have two shows. One that's going to be on this channel where Mansoor comes and talks here. And then Julia with a G is setting up a podcast that I will be a guest over there.
Okay, lovely. And I think we're starting to realize why I often do scheduling.
Yes. Also, Jean is calling me out saying I have a name that starts with a G and pronounced with a J, happens to Greek-based names. Okay. Yes, but even I know that, but I have never seen Julia spelled with a J.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Anyways, I'm excited for that. That's cool.
Yeah, me too. I would have to actually do some research because this isn't something that I'm only getting into, right? Like if we talk about, I don't know, Iran, Iraq, Syria, like the Shia side of it, I could talk about it nonstop, right? But we're getting into, and also like we got into Israel, but we were in India and Pakistan issue for a very long time, but we're only now getting into the Druze community. So this is like I have to do some homework.
I don't think you have to do homework. I mean, if they want to speak to you, they'd probably be interested in hearing your perspective as an Iranian.
Okay. Sounds good.
You know, and in talking about what is the attitude in Iran. If I was bringing you on a podcast, I wouldn't be bringing you to talk about what I have expertise in. I'd be bringing you to talk about what you have expertise in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess when they come on this channel, I should just let them do most of the talking because they're educating our audience about the Druze situation in Syria. Yeah. So I don't, yeah. If I do too much research, then I'm like, let me show you what I know. And that's not what the audience is.
Yeah, no, that's not what it's about. This is the situation where like you're bringing someone specifically to ask them those questions. It's all good.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Mortal Wombat, good to see you again. She just gifted 5 Atheist Republic memberships. Thank you.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Okay, yeah, guys, we're gonna have more member-only streams, so take advantage of your membership that has been gifted to you.
Yeah,
I always love that. Every time Mortal Wombat's names comes up, I'm like, that's a fantastic idea. All right, guys. So we're going to end the stream. And again, thank you so much to Susanna and Dee for today's show. This was great. And yeah, and thank you guys for the super chats, for the membership gifts, for liking the stream, subscribing, and also shame upon the people who have not liked the stream unless you're driving, you're walking the dogs, you're like in the gym or something, and your hands are full with something, that's a good excuse for not liking the stream. But then make sure that at some point you come back here and like the stream. Okay, there's no excuses. Like, you shouldn't be supporting us financially if you are struggling financially, but there's no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse for not liking the stream. I mean, at least dislike the stream. Okay, do that if you didn't like the show, right? But do something. Okay, there's no excuse for that. So like or dislike or something. Oh, we got another super chat. Let's do this one.
Ooh, thank you, Unicorn. Thank you.
Thank you, Unicorn. Saying thank you as always, Susanna. Okay, I'm gonna go. Love you guys. Bye.